The Black Heart, Mark Radulich.
That's right. Black from the waist down, Mark Radulich. Speaking of Black from the waist down, Baby Boy.
Ambien.
I I actively avoided this movie like the plague.
Uh,
I so I fucked up, and I was telling Jim this about this. Like I thought I was avoiding this movie because I was adverse to the pacifier culture in the using of pacifiers in black culture as a sort of symbol of arrested development. I hated it. I thought it was the most awful thing, and you can see like the use of pacifiers in Boys in the Hood, but I thought it was all over Baby Boy too. Like I thought he was riding a tricycle, not a real bike, like a lowrider bike, which he does, and I thought he was had a pacifier, which he doesn't. I fucking imagined it. So, but still,
Mandela. We'll go with the Mandela effect.
okay. I avoided this movie because I was utterly disinterested in a movie about young black male arrested development. I just didn't care enough. Like I get it. I think looking back now at almost 50 years old, I might have more interest in it, and at least as a cultural phenomena and an examination of generational trauma. But it took me a master's degree in mental health and like 20 years of my own trauma to get to that point where I'm a little bit more sympathetic to it. Back when this came out, I could give a fuck less. And I did not want to watch this movie. I avoided it for years. So it was kind of why I threw it into this triple feature. One, because I didn't want to do Rosewood, but also
We could
I
have
was
been
like,
four brothers, but
we could have. But also, like, I felt like it was time. I wanted to give this movie a fair shake. Turns out I really like it, believe it or not. I know it can almost put you to sleep, and I will tell you that this movie is overly long. It's one of my big criticisms of this. This movie does not earn its runtime, but I like it now more than I thought I was going to when I decided we should talk about it. So, had you've never seen it before, right?
no. This was
Okay,
the first time viewing it,
and the last time, got it.
and the last time. I mean, this isn't as bad as. I mean, this is a close second to that horrible animated feature
Oh
you
God,
made me watch.
you think it's as bad as Nerdland? That seems a bit much.
Yeah, that I'm pretty. I said it comes in second.
Okay,
Nerdland is the
you're
bottom of the barrel. This
you're
is
being a histrionic woman, but that's
no.
Jason for you.
I I say that because literally this was I made the joke that this is Ambien because every time I tried to watch it, I would get 10, 15 minutes in it and I would be asleep.
Okay, I don't know if that's the movie's
Um,
fault though. You're working hard, you work crazy hours, and maybe you're just tired.
well, I was trying to watch this all day Saturday when I had the day off,
You are impossible
and
to talk to, and I never wanted to work with you again.
that's fine. Just call me Wesley Snipes, okay?
Call you Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, because after anybody works with Wesley Snipes besides Woody Harrelson, they never want to work with him again.
And you don't pay your taxes. All right, Baby Boy is a 2001 American coming-of-age hood drama, directed, written, and produced by John Singleton. Stars Tyrese Gibson, Snoop Dogg, Ving Rhames, Omar Gooding, AJ Johnson, and Taraji P. Henson, who is like the absolute far and away best performance of this movie. The film follows Joseph Jody, oh Jody don't love me no more. Sorry. Um, Summers, a 20-year-old bike mechanic, as he lives and learns in his everyday life in the hood of Los Angeles. The film was originally written with rapper actor Tupac Shakur in mind to play Jody. Shakur had previously worked with Singleton on Poetic Justice. However, following Shakur's murder in 1996, Singleton decided to replace Shakur with R&B artist Tyrese Gibson. Additionally, the role of Rodney was originally written for Ice Cube, who had worked with Singleton on Boys in the Hood and Higher Learning. The film marked the feature acting debut of Gibson and provided Henson with her first prominent role. Released in the United States on June 27, 2001, the film received predominantly positive reviews from critics and audiences, with many deeming it as Singleton's best film since Boys in the Hood. The film is also the final feature film written by Singleton, as he did not write any of his later feature-length directorial projects before his death in 2019. On a budget of $16 million, it earned $29.3 million. It has a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's it. So this has no plot either. the unifying theme of this triple feature. This is how long is this movie?
2 hours and 10 minutes,
Yeah, it's
I
really bad.
think.
Yeah, this is 2 hours and 10 minutes, like it's Lord of the fucking Rings. So we have Jody. He lives with his mom in their grandmother's house, and his mom gets a new boyfriend. And the whole thing with Jody is that the mother put his brother out, and while being out of the house, the brother got himself shot. This traumatized Jody, and now he's afraid to leave the home. Jody likes to fuck, and fuck he does. He has brought two kids from two different women into this world, and I'm sure more if he had his druthers. He does not work a steady job, though he does do a fair amount of hustling by selling stolen dresses later on in the movie. But for the most part, he's kind of living the life of a 15-year-old horny boy. He bounces between women, he bounces between homes, he won't leave his mom's home, and he's deathly afraid that his mother's going to put him out of the house. His girlfriend, who's one of his baby's moms, has her own apartment. She has an ex-boyfriend who's currently in prison, and that's Snoop Dogg. And Snoop Dogg is going to come home soon, and that's kind of the conflict of the movie, kinda. The rest of it is we're just kind of following Tyrese around. We're following him, watching him sell dresses. We're following him, you know, banging different women. We're following him arguing with a lot more women. We're kind of watching the mom's relationship with Ving Rhames develop over time, and there's like sort of the looming tension of what is Ving Rhames's whole deal. Is he going to abuse the mom? Is he tried and true? Is he trying to push Tyrese Gibson out of the house? These are all things that are in the air with this movie. Eventually, Rodney does come home, and Rodney tells his parole officer he's going to live with Taraji Henson. And Taraji Henson's like, "The fuck you are?" And he's like, "Well, I've already told my parole officer this, so I live here now." And he's like, "All right, so I've been in prison for a while. Give up the ass." And she's like, "I don't want to. I didn't want you here in the first place." And because coping skills are non-existent in this part of the world at this time, he kind of projects all of his anger at Jody. And so there's conflict between these two, and having decided that the only way to get Taraji P. Henson's character to bang him is to kill Jody, he attempts to. Jody instead gets with his other idiot friend, and they instead kill Snoop Dogg. Having been traumatized by done murdering someone, he goes back to the house. Ving Rhames helps him clean off the gun, and much like Boromir and Frodo, they know each other a little bit better now. And
they share an experience of the plight of the black man.
And so he, having already had a fight with Ving Rhames, and then Ving Rhames kind of helping him out with the gun, he figures now is as good a time as any to just get the fuck out of the house. He kind of had already been put out, but this time it's his own choice, and he moves in with Taraji P. Henson, and they are having fun. That's it. That was 2 hours and 10 minutes to get to that point, by the way. This movie this had 90 minutes of content. 90. This was way too long. And to make the point that young black men suffer between the absence of strong male role models in their life, in many of their lives, and the generational trauma that they suffer, they are just awash in arrested development and emotional immaturity. And that's kind of the whole point of the movie. It's a window into this world of man children and their lack of coping skills and their whorish behavior. But wait, there's more. It's also an examination of how shitty women are in this community. That they tend to, as much as the men tend to objectify the women are objectifying the men too. Kind of goes back to what goes, poetic justice. Are you just a dick with legs? Are you a wallet with legs? Maybe you are. That's all we see you as. Are you just a vagina? Are you just a baby making machine? A place to live so that I can be a perpetual teenager? Maybe. That's a lot of the conflict of this movie. Over and over and over and over again.
This feels like a student film that was stretched out to 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could have made this film in 45 minutes and just about hit all the notes without the excess fat. Um, like I said, this movie I wasn't a fan of. I thought it drug way too much for me. It was like hurry up and get to the point, hurry up and get to the point. Wait, there is no point. I hate my life. Um,
All right, let me jump in here. I like this movie a lot. It's just too long, but I also watched it in like parts. Like I was watching it between sessions, and I think I finished it at the end of the night when I was crying about my bets. But I, like I said, Tyrese Gibson. Everyone is acting within their range. No one here gives a bad performance, but some of their ranges is limited, and they're all well within their range, except for Taraji P Henson, who really goes for it in this and is fucking stellar. Like later on, she'll play in Hidden Figures, the mathematician in the NASA program that helps them get to the moon. And I think between this and then are like her two best performances that I've ever seen. Taraji P Henson really goes for it here and is a lot of fun to watch. And I'll tell you, the bit where she is just beating on him and punching him and like I dare you to hit me, and finally he like goes to hit her and she flinches and like halfway runs across the walkway. I was like, that's an intense scene, and boy have I also been there, to where the woman is just like goading you and goading you and goading you and goading you, like, come on, do something. If you were any kind of a man, you'd do something, and it's wrong to do something. You shouldn't do something, but God, you really want to, because who wouldn't want to respond to being provoked that way? And then you
yeah, I
kind
mean,
and
equal
then you
rights equal lefts.
and then you kind of just do it, and then like the abject horror that this giant man might beat this dainty woman who was clearly asking for it, like, that's intense, man. It's a good scene. She does it really, really well. It's also scarier than any horror movie I've ever seen.
The tension of the movie is dialed up so high that you're like you're waiting for a big payoff, and you just kind of get a lackluster payoff.
I mean,
It's
they
like,
shoot Snoop Dogg in the street. What kind of a payoff did you want?
well, I mean, I, you could have had more. I think it was the fact that you look at a. I wanted more tension in the fact that more interaction between them and the threats and everything and
Yeah.
the fear
So,
of him leaving the house
so before
rather
they,
than
if I'm given this script as a studio executive, I'm like, okay, two things. One, cut this in half, you psycho. Two, introduce Rodney at the end of the first act. Have more interactions between Taraji P Henson, Tyrese Gibson, and Snoop Dogg throughout the second act, and then he comes home in the third act. And do exactly what they did, but that's your third act. That's all this movie needed.
yes. I think just the looming of him coming home would
Yeah.
have. I think they could have dialed it up and or like had her leave and be the cause of the split up, and then basically have him stewing in jail basically to get his woman back, and to have that looming over the head of Tyrese. I think that would have, like you said, that would have built a little bit. The tension would have been a lot better
Right.
and not as forced.
Because the tension is whether or not he's ever going to leave his mother's house, which isn't enough. There needed to be, because the resolution of the movie is he shoots Snoop Dogg, and yeah, and then he actively moves out of the mother's house instead of just allowing himself to be kicked out after a domestic violence incident. Um, Whereas I think if you tighten this up and make it more about the ticking clock of Rodney coming home, and that palpable tension of, you need to move in here and take care of your business because the psycho is going to come home and you're going to end up losing me. This nut job's not going to let you claim me. Okay, that I think makes it a tighter, more tense script. Instead, it's just this ongoing. Like the only other way to do this is that this is a television show, and it's the
Yeah.
ongoing screaming match between Tyrese Gibson and Taraji P Henson.
Now, you mentioned, that she only had two good performances. I'm going to say that her best performance was Hustle and Flow as Shook.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good too.
Simply because of the art she does in it,
Mm-hmm.
but she has tremendous. She is a very underrated actress.
Dude, when she's in the car crying, he doesn't love me anymore. Like that got an emotional reaction to me. Like I genuinely felt bad for her.
Yeah, I mean, she's a phenomenal actress, and I don't think that she gets her flowers enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that she gets overshadowed a lot uh, in great performances. Like, this is a great performance, but it's not in a movie that a lot of people seen or gets um, gets recognized a lot. Hustle and Flow's the same way. She has an amazing performance, but it's kind of a genre that not the masses will see.
Yeah.
Hidden Figures, same thing. It was critically acclaimed,
Well, the
but
clips are gonna roll over
it's
TikTok now.
but it's really it's for a niche audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for the masses. And I think that's her biggest issue as an actress is she's phenomenal, but she's in movies that are not for the masses, so everybody doesn't get to appreciate her.
That's fair. Um, the commentary again about Arrested Development and not wanting to leave the nest, not wanting to. I mean, I don't want to spend another hour on this, but there's a lot to be said for, like I said, generational trauma, lack of male role models. Like there's just statistic after statistic, study after study that shows an absence of positive male role models in the lives of children has an extremely detrimental effect. It shows it's a lot of the reason for why they behave the way that they behave. Um, you know, Ving Rhames is written as doing his level best to be kind of a mentor to Tyrese Gibson. But Tyrese Gibson doesn't have the emotional maturity to hear him, and there's jealousy and there's anxiety about losing his very comfortable life. And I think there's also something to be said about the comfortability of being a pet, or being a perpetual 15-year-old, no responsibility, sort of, delayed adulthood, that kind of a thing. That's really all this movie is about, and that's all this movie is commenting on. Other than um, men and women can be really awful to each other. So I'll give you the last word here on what you were awake for Baby Boys, or anything else. Like I said, I really liked it because I liked what it was talking about. It's just too long.
Yeah, I mean, you could have trimmed this. You could have trimmed this way down, made it a tight 90 minutes. Introduce characters in the first act with the payoff in the third would have been a significant improvement to the film. Other than that, like I said, I mean, I wasn't a fan. Um, I mainly because of the length of it, and I just felt it had no direction. So out of the movies, I would recommend Higher Learning. Definitely watch Higher Learning. Poetic Justice, if you want to see some of Tupac's ability to really show his acting abilities, I would recommend that. Personally, I would not recommend Baby Boy unless you want something to fall asleep to.
Baby Boy is a very niche movie. I keep talking about how I work in an office full of a variety of age Black women, and the one that was willing to talk to me about this movie today actually said, she was like, "This is it's my least favorite movie," and she's like, "It's not bad," but I guess her take on it was, I guess it was constantly being played on BET. And I guess if you're a frequent watcher of BET and this is on all the time, it's it's like a fucking Christmas Story on TNT or some
Oh
shit,
yeah,
or any one of the guys from movies who like movies that we used to watch on cable that's on incessantly. You know, this was on BET apparently all the time, and so she's like, it's not bad. I don't hate it. It's just I'm just sick of it. This got too much play.
I
And I
could see
think,
that.
and and the other thing that she said to me, which I thought was interesting, she was like, I don't need to be reminded how some black men can be awful and some black women can be awful. Like it's an argument that I get from other people in our group chat and the people I talk to. Movies are supposed to be escapism. You know, they are a place to go to get out of the humdrum hoi polloi, tedious life that we all live. And then you take a look at Baby Boy, and Baby Boy hits a little too close to home, and you're just like, I don't need to be reminded of this. Try to get away
Yeah.
from this.
I want escapism.
Yeah, I want a peppermint.
I want a peppermint.
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 All right, that is when we start saying peppermint over and over again like insane people. That is the end of our podcast.